Apayarara no chá tico tico. No chá tico tico, mas no chá tico tico. Apayarara no chá tico tico. Não apeia com mal, com P, mas com bico. Apayarara no chá tico tico. Minha toalha com renda de bico. Thanks and praise, dissidents. It has been a while. It has been a while. And quite a few fascinating things have come to pass. Quite a few fascinating things have been etched into history in most fascinating ways. Quite a lot of acrimony is popping off automatically around the trepidation of speculating. And there is a hot minefield of suffering of contradictions, where on one hand, you don't want to judge too soon, but on the other hand, we know that after these events, the first wave of information is the most important, because it will only have generations of refutation stacked onto the events that happen immediately. So on one hand, you don't want to jump to judgment, but on the other hand, you know that you got to get the information while the getting is good, because it's only going to get muddier and muddier over time. So I want to talk about the Chariot. I'm going to start by talking about the Chariot and why a lot of people, in my opinion, are missing the boat if you're not starting with this Chariot card. For one, we are in Cancer. The symbol for the Cancer in the tarot cards is the Chariot card. The entire theme of the entire event was in the color schematic of this card, and no other card, none of the other cards fit. Every other card is an F minus. This is the only A plus in the deck. All right? All right? So we're not gonna budge on the necessity of the Chariot card. And because that egregore, that totem, that thought form has so much history packed into it from the past, it will only gain greater purchase and value going forward to throttle the theories upon theories that will never stop. They will never stop. We don't get facts. We don't get the facts. So get used to theory. Have fun with it. Chariot. It has to be the Chariot so that we chase our tails around in circles. This is the essence of conspiracy theorists. Now, what I'm about to do is fascinating. It's fascinating because it means that the definition of the words we use is not, it's not unilogical. it's more than polysemic, what I'm about to show. So I broke this down a little bit on Beth Martin's and with Chance Garton a couple weeks ago. But the word conspiracy, con-S-P-I, conspi. Hold on, see that C. My marker's running out. Conspire, right? And now they would tell you to put an R at the end so that you're saying conspire. To conspire is to breathe together, right? This means we're talking together, we're planning together, we're coming together. 365 CON is 365. That's all the possibilities, right? Every day of the year. CON is 365. Inspire is to breathe. However, also, this is but and both and. We're both anding. SPICON spells speak on. to speak on. Isn't that synchronous how conspire and speak on have the same implication? Racy, conspiracy, the word theo. If you read the Cratylus, everybody go read the Cratylus. Prove my words. You do the homework for me. Theo means racer. It means wanderer, means God, it means planets, but its most nuanced meaning is racer. Conspire, racy, racer, raced. We're going to say raced, past tense. Racy, racer, raced. Racy, racer, raced. The reason why the need for the race and the checkerboard flag to be constantly invoked is, for one, it's keeping you in duality. It's also thrice great. The word race is thrice great. In the word conspiracy theory, it's thrice times magnified. And this keeps you chasing your own tail. It is supplementing a sense of competition, or the sense that there is a finish line. Yeah, somewhere. If I just keep chasing my tail, I'll find a finish line. Oh, I'm just going to race until I'm racy, until I'm raced. And this is the vertiginous nature of language at large. Also, the reason why the Chariot card has to be the theme is because the word car in reverse is race. RACCAR. And so the circuit of chasing your own tail is intrinsic in the fine minutiae of language in 1,000 million ways. It's fascinating how we actually are ushered away from causality in our words. There's like a bit of a shepherd's crook, a little fish hook that pulls us just off of where the rubber really meets the road in words. And we do it to ourselves. Just to get by, just to race on through the tail chasing of disbelief, the comfort in disbelief. I'm going to make two random statements. Maybe I'll come back to them. Maybe they'll play back into this whole chasing of our own tail. Jung tells us that the gods of old have been relegated to mere factors in our life. And I find this quite rewarding. And in fact, even in our language, for a phonetic to be a verb is very mercurial. For a phonetic to be a pronoun is very Uranian. For a phonetic to be a noun is very Venetian. For a word to be an explicative is very Saturnian, if you ask me. Martian, might be Martian. For a profanity or an explicative is very Mars-oriented. The factors are where the gods have been hiding out all along. This should not reduce your opinion of what a god is. This should increase your respect of what the factors are in the world. Another statement by Alfred North Whitehead, A&W. A&W. I freaking love A&W. Alfred North Whitehead. He says that routines are the gods of a society. I think he and Jung were kind of pointing at each other a little bit in those sentiments. Routine is the gods of a society. The factors are where the gods have been relegated to. It's so fascinating how our language is running a routine, running the program. And right under our nose is where the gods are hanging out, doing kung fu, making things happen. Yeah, the rubber meeting the road in causality is a fascinating thing to contemplate. And the chariot is a deeply necessary vehicle to understand the mechanics of, because the Merkaba of the imaginative principle is your language and your control over your words, and your intimacy with your words as well. All right. A lot of theories are going to be circulating. A lot of theories are going to be circulating. I just want to put a few of the factors of those events. I'm just going to peripherally mark them down so that we can refer back to this potentially as needed. I've actually done planetary placements from the events on 7-13. 7, 7th card, 13 has a very strong correspondence to the number 6 with the shadow of fear. 13 is the 6th prime number. 13 is triskaidekaphobia that Stephen King is all about. By Stephen King avoiding 13, he actually highlights it. It's actually shining brilliantly, like a blind spot in the room, because he never addresses 13, because he's avoiding it. He's still instilling its absence into our purview. So 13 has been reinforced 1,000 times by Stephen King. Triskaidekaphobia, that is. And it has a strong relationship to this number 6. The Lestrygonians in the Odyssey were the number 6 station, and Ignatius Loyola's name is an anagram for Lestrygonians. So every time you heard that word, there should be a whisper of fear, a mytho-formulaic whisper of fear in the name Ignatius Loyola, who, by the way, is Spain-oriented. A lot of people hear Jesuit and they think of Italy. We got to keep Spain in the map. That's a easy slip. His conversion in the cave was in Barcelona, where Tom Carberry has made a great case for the New Testament events to have kicked off around the 1300s around Barcelona. In fact, and it might not have been any of the names we're thinking about, but something kicked off around Barcelona at the 1300s, and that's where Ignatius Loyola had to hunker down and go through a bit of a conversion, much like a Lestrygonian rite. Okay. I got a lot to say. I hope I keep this linear. All right. That was just catching up for lost time since I took some time off there. Brinkmanship. We are at the verge. We're at the precipice, and everybody wants to prove that they got nothing to lose, and that they're all in this to the end. Brinkmanship is specifically international. I found that very interesting. But it is a bit of a kamikaze mentality. And I invite you to look up the term brinkmanship. The reason why it's really hitting hard is because the Argo Navis is the minor deacon of Cancer. And so the brinkmanship and this extreme measures to prove that you have more chutzpah than the next guy, especially in the heat of the battle, at the end game turning point. The brinkmanship could not have been expressed in any other month. It had to be expressed in Cancer. The brinkmanship is pointing at the ship of Theseus, that is the Argo Navis. Another thing I want to talk about before I forget, I just need to put these things on the record because they will unpack in the future, like they always do on the Select Dissonant channel, in ways that I barely even keep track of. Wittgenstein had a eureka moment, very much like Doc Brown in Back to the Future. By the way, Doc Brown is Bernie, and Doc Brown's future wife, that's Hillary, and them running the train off the cliff, that's totally the 2016 elections. If you didn't catch that, Wittgenstein had a huge epiphany when he saw a court case using scale models to try to reenact a crime. And it was him watching people trying to use the model to bring their mentality into a greater assessment of truth. That was his eureka moment. I see that in Back to the Future, but I also see it in what's happening with those events on the 13th, that Saturday. The idea of using, as I was putting this model together, I realized, oh my gosh, the Wittgensteinian language games are totally at play. They're totally at play. And that's part of what makes it look like it was all scripted, and that's what people want. People want it to be either or. They want it to be, they want to believe their own eyes. People want to believe their own eyes. And I don't want to be the one to tell you not to. I'm not going to be the one to tell you don't believe your own eyes. But I am going to tell you to keep on thinking, and don't you ever stop thinking. Don't you ever think that it's time to stop thinking. That is not the case. Do not settle for anything I say. Yeah, all right. Lecture zone, backing out. Okay. The bat signal. That took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. The bat signal is officially been invoked. The butler, Batman's butler, was Alfred. Alfred North Whitehead in the Krupp family legacy of naming a child either Frederick or Alfred, Frederick or Alfred. So for the events to take place in Butler is definitely a call for heroes. This is, call on all heroes, come get some, decode the shit out of this story. I'll answer that call. Thank you very much. Yeah, the Butler aspect. But it also, because it takes place up in Cancer at the pinnacle, it has a strong relationship to Puxatawny Phil, 180 degrees away. I've been harping on this, the white fragility of the winter months. While Cancer is white hot at the pinnacle of the year, there's also the white cold correspondence down low, where Puxatawny Phil in the ceremony of the Groundhog's Day is the week of inauguration with the reading of auguries. The word president is an anagram for den priest, and he's inaugurated on the week when the groundhog determines how long spring is going to be, and everybody bows down to a little critter, some immortal critter that has not died in 140 some years. Puxatawny Phil is immortal, y'all. He's drinking some special potion down in his den. The word den priest, president, is the den priest. The word den, D-I-N, means deafening sound. It's a percussive, perpetual sound that is so heavy and so hard-handed that you no longer can even hear because of it. And eventually you just drown it out. I have a theory that the stations of the muses create a den of their own nature. And one of these muses, Erato, her song is sung so loud and so obtusely that we have drowned out the eroticism in our language. And if you take the time to really contemplate the nature of the English language, you will find out that there is a den, a deafening cacophony of sexual innuendo just riddled through the English language. And that gives us a blind spot. We're just desensitized to the fact that our language is raunchy. It's raunchy, and it's entertaining, but it's also it's abusive. It's abusive, and it gives us a blind spot that as soon as things get childish, uh, we recoil, and we believe that it's an untruth. But there's a deeper, deeper truth behind what that den is hiding. I'm not going to elaborate. I'm not going to elaborate because it derails very quickly. Okay. So when these events kick off, there is a den of noise and speculation, and people are repelled by that. They don't want that speculative first layer. They don't want the guesses. They just want the facts. Just keep this in the realm of facts. But maybe they need to reassess their relationship to the word facts. Tractor. There's a tractor in the background. The Dear John Deere. The shooter was up on a tan shed. Wilkes Booth was killed in a tanning shed, a hide tanning shed. That's where they got Wilkes Booth. So the fact that he's wearing tan on a tan shed, and that's where they take him out, it's totally Wilkes Booth 3.0 at this point. But the tractor factor is very important as well, because Dear John, it's a John Deere tractor, but Dear John is the old advice uh, uh, part of the newspaper. Was Dear John was an advice column. That's what I want to say. It's an advice column in the newspaper, but it's also egregoric implant of the idea of a breakup letter. The John Deere tractor, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's nice. That's good old American culture. But it's also the Dear John. As you work too hard, now we got to get the DVOC, the divorce. COVID in reverse is DVOC, which means a divorce. And so seeing a tractor, a John Deere tractor, is subliminally, maybe to those who have gotten a Dear John letter a time or two, maybe it hits home for them more than others. Maybe folks who have never gotten the Dear John letter, they only have an optimistic worldview, and they wouldn't even see the implication of the divorce in the signs and the symbols of the landscape. So yeah, the John Deere tractor is totally hailing to the divorce, which is the word COVID in reverse. We are hyper literate. We are hyper literate, and it's not comfortable to admit how intelligent you actually always were. I'm happy to tell you. All right. The watershed moment. A Dear John letter is a watershed moment. And so there's this historical event. It was a watershed event, but it's watershed because you read the Dear John letter, and some people just tear up at the word Dear John. Yeah, pulls at the heartstrings. Oh, okay. So another aspect of somebody was asking why would they fake it, or when you already had it in the bag, why take it so far? The one aspect of that is investor confidence. It's not enough to be like, oh, now it's pretty much going to happen. No, there's a level of investor confidence that has to be way beyond that. It has to be way beyond this is in the bag. So that's another aspect of the Brinkmanship. The investors need to have the risk wiped off the chessboard completely, so that they can really commit to years and years going forward based on what happened on that day. So investor confidence is the reason why, even though he already had it, he needed to lock it down forever, because it will be a landmark case. There will be laws grown out of this. Let me get my shoe. Let me get my shoe. That is the Sobek on shoes. It's the access to the subconscious, and it's also hailing to Drake's Passage. So this is Buotes. This is North America's the R Altair, the shapes of the negative space. And down here, if this is South America, Buotes, down here is Sobek, and there's his shoes. So back on shoes is the so back conscious, the subconscious. But it's also Drake's passage where the bathymetry choke point that controls the weather of the globe, whatever, that Drake's passage needs a hail sign in the teachable moment. So let me get my shoes is totally inspiring. Vuotes is the great void. The poets have to get out of their own way to let the inspiration flow through. But it's inspiring the nature of the Sobek on shoes, the subconscious. So this full card is a very unique full card from other full cards. It's falling back and not falling forward. So I wanted to mention that. And then the last thing I'm going to end on is Stephen King. Stephen King had a little back and forth about the Biden thing, and Elon Musk made a comment on Stephen King's comment saying even Stephen King is going to vote for Trump, which is really funny. But that city, where the Butler, Pennsylvania, where the Groundhog's Day event is going to be replaying over and over and over. That location is where Stephen King's second book about a haunted chariot, about a ghost chariot. It's called From a Buick 8. Stephen King wrote a book, From a Buick 8, which is a spoof on a Bob Dylan song, From a Buick 6. You should read the lyrics and think about the things that happened on that day. These rabbit holes will unpack for years to come. But Stephen King's book, From a Buick 8, took place in that general area where the shooting happened. So again, and if you look at the cover of the book, it's totally this card. It's absolutely this card on the cover of his book. And sure enough, you get into the story, and it's about a guy who comes into a town, and the town has this car that's not really a car. It doesn't even work. It has wires that don't go anywhere, and fake dashboard and fake pieces. But if you break the car, it fixes itself. And then he ends up becoming like a pet mascot to the cops. And he gets into the circles with the cops. One of the cops loses a job, and he gets hired in. It's fascinating because just last week we were talking about doing ride-alongs with the police to be acquainted with the figures of authority in your local community, which I still highly recommend. But it's so fascinating how we were pontificating in the verbal judo weaves, and then I find out about the Stephen King book, which seems to have been paralleling some of the works we were doing on the Interverse Tribe. So I just wanted to point that out. And this is Stephen Hawking, by the way. This is not just Stephen King. This is Stephen Hawking, too. So, yeah, all of the cultural implications that have been packed into here for millennia before the event, they just add to profound, deep, and vast context that makes the events seem maybe not more or less real, but they makes the events more significant. It adds to the significance of it, which is just more of an invitation to emote in its general direction at large. So, this Chariot card was the Fred Flintstones. It was Fred wore this color ascot, and then he would get in his chariot and run around with his feet to make the thing move. Well, sure enough, Fred from the Scooby Gang, he also is rocking this tarot card as his own nature. Also, Scooby-Doo. This tarot card is Scooby-Doo with Woodstock sitting on his head, and so I'm sorry, Snoopy. I said Scooby-Doo. This is Snoopy from the Peanuts with Woodstock sitting on his head. This is going to be his card. And what is amazing is Snoopy has always had a hole in his ear. He's always had a big black hole inside of his ear. And there's something before these events, it was that signification of Snoopy having a hole in his ear wasn't sufficient enough to make you think that he's kind of like a spy, Like we always recognize spies. If you ever saw the movie Heat, it's during the shootout when the one guy is constantly trying to talk into his earpiece, and they're like, "Stop talking in your earpiece. They're gonna know you're a cop." And so there's something about Snoopy and being a spy and always using your earpiece to cup and try to hear and giving away that you're snooping. But also Woodstock is on the head of Snoopy, and sure enough, this little crab figure on the top is a good enough fit. And sure enough, I found out that the movie Groundhog's Day was not filmed in Pennsylvania, where that shooting happened. The movie Groundhog's Day was actually shot in Woodstock, Illinois. So the movie Groundhog's Day actually took place in my territory's map. It didn't happen in Pennsylvania, which would be more Leo oriented, where Mars is wearing the helmet of Orania right now. The shooting of the movie Groundhog's Day actually took place in Illinois, which is a perfect lock into place for the Chariot card under Cancer in my territories map. So that is a first pass. I'm just laying some of the terrain for the high flying demystifying that we intend to lean into in greater and greater detail as we are rewarded for our coherency theurgy. It's not conspiracy theory anymore. This is coherency theurgy. That's what we're up to. That's what we're all about. All right, y'all. Big love and respect. I'll get some graphics up in here and we'll set the record nice and straight.